All right, today we're going to go through the questions on the quiz. You can follow along with your quiz, but we need to be very confident of these problems, doing these problems, so that we can do this stuff on the test that we have coming up, right? So, number 1 says we're going to solve this using the substitution method. Well, according to the substitution method, I want to solve for one of the variables that has a coefficient of plus or minus 1. So, I'm going to solve for this x. So, if I take x minus y equals 3, and I add y to both sides, x equals y plus 3, right? Then I substitute where x is, I can substitute this value because it's the same. X equals this value, so I can substitute it in there. And now I will solve for y. 2y plus 3 equals 5. I'll subtract 3. 2y equals 2. And y equals 1. Then I take this value and I put it right back into this equation. X equals 1 for y plus 3. X equals 4. So my solution is 4, 1, and I can go and check that to be sure. All right, let's look at number 2. I'm going to solve this equation for the x because it has a coefficient of 1. So if I subtract 2y from both sides, moving up now, x equals 6 minus 2y. Right, I'm going to take this, and wherever there's x in the second equation, I'll substitute in this quantity. 6 minus 2y minus 3y equals 26. All right, distribute 12 minus 4y minus 3y equals 26. 12 minus 7y equals 26. Let's subtract 12. Right, negative 7y equals 14. Divide by negative 7. Y equals negative 2. Right? Then I take this right back here, plug it in, substitute, right? 6 minus 2 times negative 2, that's what x equals. Well, that's 6 plus 4 equals 10. So my answer here is 10, negative 2. All right? Let's look at this. This number 3, they have already solved for y in this equation. So I will substitute wherever there's y in the second equation, I'll substitute this quantity. 6 minus x. All right, 2x minus 18, right, I'm distributing, plus 3x equals 22. Collect like terms. 5x minus 18 equals 22. Add 18. 5x equals 2, 3, 4. 5x equals 40. I'll divide by 5. X equals 8. I'll come right back here, and I'll say y equals 6 minus 8, which is negative 2. So my point is 8, negative 2. I want to caution you that when you are doing the algebra, where you're trying to add something to both sides of the equation, you have to make sure that you are adding. So let's say I have 2x minus 18. I'm rewriting something over here. This is the equal sign, right? You can only do something once on this side and once on this side. Some of you want to say, well, I'm going to subtract this 2x, and then you'll come over here and subtract it. You cannot do that. You need to be once on this side of the equation, once on the other side. That's why when you first learned this, we had you draw this dotted line where the equal sign was. So you can't do that. You can do this, that's fine, right? But you cannot do it on the same side of the equation. You have to do it. That's why, you guys, go ahead and draw this dotted line right down where those equal signs are. All right, number 4. I could solve for this, I could solve for this, or I could solve for that. I have some choices here. So I'm going to pick the y. So if I subtract x from both sides, I get y equals 2 minus x. I'll go back to the first equation. Wherever there's y, I'll substitute in this value. They're the same, right? Y equals that. So x, let's distribute now, plus 4 minus 2x equals 5. I'm going to simplify the sign. X minus 2x, negative x, plus 4 equals 5. Right? I'm going to subtract 4. I'm going to subtract 4. Notice I did it on one side of the equal sign and the other side of the equal sign. Negative x equals 1, x equals negative 1. So I have this x. Just like I said, I come back to this equation right here. And I'm writing it over here. Y equals 2 minus a negative 1. Well, that's the same as 2 plus 1 equals 3. So my answers here are 2, negative 1, 3. Okay? Let's do the next ones. Again, I have, whoops, sorry about that. I have some choices here. I will solve for this x. So I will add y, right? There's my line where the equal sign is. I'm going to add y to both sides. And I get x equals 6 plus y. So in the second equation, wherever there's x, I can substitute this in. Sorry, I keep hitting the button. 3, 6 plus y equals negative 2. Distribute 18 plus 3y plus y equals negative 2. Before I start adding things to both sides of the equation, I'm going to simplify this side. Collect like terms. 18 plus 4y equals negative 2. Now I can do some work. Subtract 18. 4y equals negative 20. Divide by 4 on both sides. Y equals negative 5. Okay. Take this. Come back to that equation. Or really, you could go to either of the originals. But if I plug that in, x equals 6 plus a negative 5, I get x equals 1. So my answer here is 1, negative 5. All right, last one where we must do substitution. I'm going to solve for this x and do my little line. So I'll subtract 4y from both sides, right? So x equals 5 minus 4y. We'll substitute that in there. 3 times 5 minus 4y minus 4y equals 7. Distribute. Watch your signs. Signs are what really got people on the quiz. Now I'm going to collect like terms. Negative 12y minus 4y is negative 16y equals 7. Now, let's do this. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides, right? I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. I get negative 16y equals negative 8. I will divide by negative 16 on both sides, and I'll get y equals 1/2. There's my y. Bring it back to this equation. Coming up top. X equals 5 minus 4 times 1/2. Well, 4 times 1/2 is just 2, isn't it? So x equals 3. So the answer to this one is 3, 1/2. All right, let's talk about elimination. Remember, we want to get coefficients of one of the variables to be the same except different signs, right? You got to watch that because we want to be able to add these equations together. So, I'm looking at this here, and I think I'm going to go after the x's. Gosh darn it, sorry. And I have a common denominator of 12, so I think if I multiply this top one by 3, this bottom one by negative 2, I can have 12 up here and negative 12 here. So let's do it. Remember, when I'm multiplying through, I have to multiply each term in that equation. So the first equation becomes 12x plus 15y equals 15, right? The second becomes negative 12x minus 14y equals negative 14. So let's add those equations together. Those zero out. I'm sorry, my hand keeps hitting the button. 15 plus a negative 14, y is y. 15 plus a negative 14 is 1. All right, so far so good. Y equals 1. Now I can plug that or substitute that into either of these equations. So let's do this. 4x plus 5 times 1 equals 5. Right, I'll subtract 5 from both sides. 4x equals 0. Therefore, x equals 0. So my solution to this is 0, 1. All right, let's look over here at these. These are not in the same order. You need to get them in the same order. So I'm going to rewrite this one as 5x plus 2y equals 11. And I'm going to go after these y's here. This is 2y, but I want to get a negative 2y up here. So I'm going to multiply that by negative 2. So here's the first equation. I'm leaving it, and I'll get this one down here. Negative 14x minus 2y equals negative 20. Let's add these together. All right, 5 plus a negative 14 gives me negative 9x. These are 0 equals 11 minus 20 gives me negative 9. Right? And both sides of the equation divide by negative 9, x equals 1. All right. Now I can go into either of these equations up here and figure out what y is. So I'll use the first one. 7 times 1 plus y equals 10. Subtract 7, y equals 3. So my answer here is 1, 3. And it is always good to check your answers. For instance, I used this first equation to find the y, didn't I? So therefore, I could use this equation to check, because I hadn't used that one yet. Or I've used it in combination, but not by itself. All right, here again, we're not in the same form. So I am going to subtract 2y along here, and I'll have x minus 2y equals 4. Now on this one here, I'm going to subtract 2x over. And this will be negative 2x plus y equals negative 8. Now let's figure out what we want to multiply by to make one of the variables the same with different signs. Well, I have a negative 2 right here, don't I? So I'm going to multiply this by 2. So I'm going to rewrite the first one. And I'll say negative 4x plus 2y equals negative 16. Add these together. X plus a negative 4x is a negative 3x. Minus 2 plus 2y zeroes out. 4 minus 16 is negative 12, right? I'll divide both sides by negative 3. X equals 4. Good. I can come back to either of these. I'll go here to find y. So y will be 2 times 4 minus 8. So notice y will be 8 minus 8, or 0. So for number 9, our answer is 4, 0. All right, 10. Let's get one more of these before I run out of time. I will go after my x's, and I'll multiply this top equation by negative 2. So negative 2x minus 2y equals negative 8. So I'm going to add these two together right here. Those zero out. 3y minus 2y is y. 7 minus 8 is negative 1. Y equals negative 1. That works out nicely. And I can go into either equation. I'll pick the top one. X plus a negative 1 equals 4. So that's really x minus 1 equals 4. Add 1 to both sides. X equals 5. Well, that worked out nicely. 5, negative 1. All right, I am going to stop here and pick up in the next video. But you need to watch this video as many times as you need to make sure you're understanding how to solve these problems. All right, I'll pick it up in a minute.